What is up, Jabroniacs? Welcome to another special edition of Cow post Wrestlemania. And we're going to be chopping up all things WrestleMania here. And frankly, who knows what else, because I have a guest on the show that I'm excited. A dude who I've been talking to literally, we'll get into this probably right now. But how long this podcast has been in the works for is worth talking about. Mr. Emilio Sparks, what is up, man?
My man, what's going on? I've heard many good things about you. I know you're beefing with him right now, but the reason why I know of who you are in Calmania and, you know, my love affair for Tiptoe Through the Tulo is Jason Shabiro. I know you got beef with him right now, but if it wasn't for Shabiro, this wouldn't be happening right now. So it's been like 3 years in the making. Maybe 4.
Listen, you saw what went down in Hawaii. I just got back from Hawaii. You saw what went down. And ultimately, look, listen, I have a lot of emotions going here. So, like, kind of when I get emotional, I go into, like, robot mode and kind of disassociate so I can kind of speak about it in that kind of way now and then feel the things later. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, if you see what happened, it's like, look, obviously I got love for Shabiro. I mean, that's what cost me the whole situation, you know? And so I understand why you would like him. He's a charismatic guy. He's a smart guy. He's a cool guy. It's just that he can spiral, man, and he can lose his way. And that's kind of where we're at, you know?
He broke your heart. Long story short, he broke your heart.
Absolutely. And I'm going to have to process that. But thank you for at least tuning into Calmania. You know what I mean? Like, regardless, is that at its core, we're promoters, you know, of our events. And you know what I mean? Getting eyes on the product is always where it's at.
Listen, you have to have a working relationship together because right now you guys are intertwined. It's literally the whole fight forever thing. After watching that, it dawned on me, and I said to myself, I can watch these two do this another 4 or 5 times. It was really that good. It was stunning. Stunning.
Dude, thank you. I mean, thanks, man. You know, it's a gift and the curse. You know, I'm proud of it, but also not proud of the outcome, you know? But, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And listen, Shabiro will be on this podcast because if you are as you probably know, if you're the Comedians Wrestling Podcast champion, you're allowed to come on the podcast whenever you want. It's championship rights. And so he could burst in the middle, whenever his music hits, and he enters all the time. And so, unfortunately, I imagine he might show up right now, to be honest.
You never know.
We don't know. So that's something to be weird about. But thanks for watching it. And if you feel inclined to send it to actual wrestlers, because you know more wrestlers than I do, and I want to hear. I want to hear from real superstars and talent. I want to hear what they have to say. And
you know what?
Yeah.
I might send it. I have a couple of
no pressure,
wrestlers that I talk to, so maybe I can send it. You know?
No pressure.
No,
listen,
because you know, in terms of like cinematic, like, you know, wrestling pay-per-views, I was part of Talking Shopomania 1 and 2. You know, with Gallows Anderson and Rocky Romero. So I've seen the gamut of what goes into really doing cinematic professional wrestling when you really don't have a WWE budget. You know, so you really got to get creative. And between the stuff that you guys shot at Calmania 3 and what Talking Shopomania 1 and 2 did, man, the creativity of everything that went on with like lockdowns, pandemics, you know, just COVID in general, I really believe creators stepped up and had to change the narrative of how you can absorb entertainment and what you want to give out entertainment-wise. So to me, man, you guys really, you cracked the code. And that's what I even told the Good Brothers and Rocky. I was like, yo, you guys cracked the code in terms of how you want to film your own stuff. You don't need to do anything in front of a live crowd no more. And I think it's kind of better.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely one of the things that the concept of cinematic match seems to be here to stay in my mind. I was almost bummed when last night Bray and Fiend, those are the same guy, Bray and Randy, that their match had no cinematic element to it, because I was like, I guess you have the live crowd, so I get it, but you're like, wow, it's just the possibilities are so fun with Fiend that way.
Right, and I think that's why a feud like that, which feels like it's been going on forever, and I'm kind of exhausted by it already. Like I'm kind of over it. The fact that Randy Orton beat Bray Wyatt yesterday means that this thing might continue, and I don't want it to continue. Just because, like, I want to see an evolution of this character, because People, and I've gotten to Twitter just discussions about this where I think Bray Wyatt right now as the Fiend is extremely one-dimensional.
Interesting.
As opposed to the red sweater Mr. Rogers, welcome to my neighborhood Bray Wyatt when he's doing the Firefly Funhouse stuff.
Yes.
That is where I think he's multi-layered.
Well, let's talk about, I actually have a really nuanced point about this, because last night, a couple things didn't work for me about Fiend. Now, first off, the lead up when he was like smoky and all fired, I was like, I have a problem with this, because what's cool about it is they call him the Fiend Bray Wyatt. So it's Bray Wyatt the whole time. They acknowledge that. And so his outfit last night, his arms were covered, his whole neck was covered. But part of the beauty to me is seeing that it is actually Wyndham Rotunda. Like that you see his tattoos, right? That you're like, it is him, but he gets into this zone where he can't control himself, and it's like schizophrenic in that way. This time I was a little bit like he was way more covered up, and it kind of took me out of it. It was like, oh, he's just more of like a monster. And then also when he wasn't, I love the Firefly Funhouse. Also, like the lead up when he's back in the Mr. Rogers thing, you understand the character way more. And in that lead up, he was just smoke. It was all Alexa, kind of just going to crazy town a little bit.
Which I understand, because he was set on fire. Right. So he was off TV for a few weeks, and then she's literally carrying the program, which I like. I don't mind if they want to mix it up together. Man and female wrestling. I don't care. And the way WWE did it, played it off well. It really showed how good she can be if you give her like this, I don't know, this odd piece of clay that she has to shape into something. Yeah. And she's definitely shaping this Sister Abigail character, because that's what it is. I'm calling it Sister Abigail. Whether or not she has been absconded by Sister Abigail and her soul and Sister Abigail are now as one.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that whatever this is, she has more legs than the Fiend character. But again, how much further can this duo go together with Randy Orton? I think it's time to end the feud. I think if you're going to do it, you got to end Randy Orton with this, give Bray the W, and then let him figure out what they got to do next with him, because he doesn't really sell. Right. He doesn't sell. No. He doesn't talk, when he's in this character. So what is the character? Everybody thought, oh, it was so groundbreaking when it first started. I call pox on that, because it's not. It's not. What is it? What are we watching? What are we seeing? Because without the smoke and mirrors of all the post-production, it's just a guy in a mask.
Well, I feel like that's their choice to make it two-dimensional. Like they choose to make it fall flat, and they've done two. For example, when Fiend first started, and probably even like a lot of the first year, there was a lot of discussion about how he takes wrestlers and beats them, and then they go back to their best form. Right, so there was like, remember he like took Finn Balor, and then Finn Balor went to NXT and was going back to like doing the guns. Daniel Bryan, I believe, maybe he got good or not. He started going back to Yes after the Miz. He beat the Miz. So there was like this thing where it was like once he touches you, you kind of find yourself or whatever. And then also they had a thing that there was like this unfinished business element where. That I liked, where he had it would be like, his failures as Fedora Bray, right, were kind of like things he was rectifying as Fiend. And that, I feel like, ultimately was the story of the Randy match, was like their shitty match at 33, that was like 4 seconds long. Everybody hated the projections. And then I thought, he was going to right that wrong there. But then they always kind of just drop it. My biggest beef with WWE is they're just like week to week, everything changes. Like, it's inconsistent.
Right, but they stunk it up 2 WrestleManias. 2, not 1, 2. They stunk it up now for 2. So I think we know that Randy and Bray can't do a WrestleMania together. Because at one, yesterday we had the giant Jack in the Box. And then 4 years ago we had like the penis snake.
Oh, the penis snake. That huge ramp.
Down the huge ramp. It was just the penis snake. And it's like, all right, like, do we need all this pomp and circumstance, or how about we just let them fight?
I don't know.
Just let them fight.
Of course, but also that match, I actually was enjoying it, and then they did the Alexa thing, which looked cool, but made the match like abruptly end. And then that match, for some reason, got so much less time than a bunch of other matches that I was like, I would have taken time away from that match.
Right.
You know?
I'm more concerned with, okay, it doesn't need to look cool. It needs to make sense, because already you're playing with a ton of optics that look cool already. From the entrances, Randy Orton's coming out in his white gear. He's making fun of Mandy Rose as he's walking down that long-ass entrance. I mean, so right then and there, you already have your moments.
Right.
So now just let them fight. You didn't need Alexa Bliss to interfere like that.
No.
But again, it's whatever the narrative is supposed to be shaping. And to be honest with you, Dan, I don't see it. I don't see it right now. Anytime you watch anything with The Fiend, it's clear cut or it's so murky that I don't even think they know where they're going with it at certain points.
I like it because it's so creative. You know, like I feel like it's creative, it's fun. I like the cinematic stuff they've done. But Bray Wyatt is like one of the guys who gets to like 95% and then can never close the gap.
No, never.
And even with Fiend, it's like, oh, he's doing some awesome shit, but then they always toss stuff like he got lit on fire. Then it's like he just walks out, shakes it off, and then he's back to the other Fiend. You're like, oh, okay. So they don't actually think this stuff through. By the way, while we're talking about WrestleMania 33, okay, that's when the first time you and I messaged each other that long ago.
Yes.
What was that? 4 Manias ago?
4 or 5 Manias ago, man.
We were going to do the podcast in Orlando.
Yep.
And then it took us 4 years to connect here, which is definitely my fault.
Well, you know, we're here now, though. The universe made us play catch up. Like the universe ran ahead and just chilled and was like, all right, when these two J-Brones get together, it'll work.
Yeah,
and we're here now. We're here now.
I love it. So let's talk more about Mania. So let's talk about the main event. Okay. Curious
which
where
one?
You're at.
Night one or night two?
I was going night 2, but honestly, the way it ended up working out with the 2 nights of Mania, I wouldn't say like one night was more important than the other one. If not, night 1 was better than night 2, right?
Well, I think night 1 was definitely better than night 2.
Everyone agrees that. So let's talk about Sasha Beck. Bro, I always want to say Sasha and Malia. I can't. And when I'm going to say Sasha, I always, if I say Sasha and I want to say Malia because I'm a huge Obama mark. But it's always funny too. Sasha and Bianca, I mean, they tore the house down.
Tore it down. What can you say? I mean, Bianca is legitimately the real deal, but she was the real deal when she was in NXT, and you already knew that there was something really, really special about this woman.
Well, Sam Roberts sold her out pretty hard. Remember that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens.
Shayna Baszler. That's very ironic, right?
Right. So who has had the better career at this point? You know what I mean? In terms of athleticism and accessibility and meteoric rise.
Yeah. No.
Yes, I think. I can understand where Roberts is coming from. Shayna Baszler does have,
as an announcer, it was a good move, but I
right. She has tools. No, she has tools that are very, very tangible. I think her jiu-jitsu game is amazing, and I would love to see WWE allow her to do a Josh Barnett Bloodsport. But in terms of Bianca, she's just special the moment you looked at her. She's physically impressive.
Yeah.
She's gorgeous. But outside of just like the look of this woman, the athleticism is just on par with, I want to say her and Cesaro are the 2 most athletic WWE superstars on the roster currently.
Oh, I mean, putting her on the same level as Cesaro is completely fair. I think one of the most impressive thing about Bianca is her likability.
Yes,
I feel like
absolutely.
she comes off as this real, genuine person, and you just like her. It's interesting because I really didn't want her to win. I really thought the way to book that match was to going into Mania. My thought was, you have Sasha and her just tear the house down, have an insane match, have Sasha go over because in my mind, Sasha needs a huge win like that for her career. And I was thinking that she hasn't really retained titles. And she hasn't had any Mania wins. And then you have her lift Bianca's arm. Wow, look at unbelievable. That's what I was thinking. Kind of the
Right.
You're the warrior nod. You know what I mean?
Right. I can see that. But what I like about Sasha Banks is from what we've seen with 6, WrestleMania losses, is that she knows that she's got to do what she has to do. She's a consummate professional, and she's going to not potato it. She ain't going to sandbag it. She's going to make her opponent look good, and her opponent's going to make her look good. So to me, I think it was the right place at the right time with the right momentum, because Sasha's more entertaining when she's chasing the title than when she has the championship. Look at every feud that she's been in, right? And she's been in some real major ones, specifically 2 that really stand out. Have always been what she was doing with Bayley, and the whole thing on Raw with Charlotte Flair. Those were classics. I mean, they had the first women's Hell in a Cell match.
That match
and the women's Hell in a Cell match delivered. But to me, Sasha is better when she chases. Austin was better when he chased the WWE Championship back then. You want somebody to chase the championship. Like, I like that Drew McIntyre chases the championship rather than being the champion right now, and Drew had a really good run. So I want to see Sasha do that. But also, it's time to really switch it up, and you have all this investment with your NXT women's division, which is by far the greatest women's division in all the world.
Yeah.
Right? And I will put it up against Stardom, which I think Stardom has globally, hands down, some of the best female talent in the world of professional wrestling.
Right.
But WWE really is coming for throats with this.
Yeah.
So you've invested all this equity into creating this women's division down there, right? And you really cultivated a mindset. You've manifested a mentality that, okay, you have to be better than this. Here is the gold bar. Here is the gold standard. And you have those 4 women, Sasha, Bayley, Charlotte, Becky.
Yeah.
Now you got to go above them because you're younger, you're faster, you're stronger, and you have all the tools that they didn't have down here.
Right.
And I think we have to credit, PC coaches like Sarah Del Rey or Sarah Amato, who to me is the groundstone for why all these women are as good as they are, and Fit Finlay too for a long period of time. So I think it was a no-brainer. You have to put the title on Bianca because she's already proved so much, and it would have been a disservice and really, really defeating if she did not win. Because
I agree. I was dead wrong. I had 2 things I said on the podcast that I was dead wrong about once I saw Mania. Like, the second it started, the second Vince was like, welcome to WrestleMania, I literally was like, oh, not having Bianca win would have been like one of the biggest missed opportunities in wrestling. I was like, what the fuck was I talking about? Right. I just like Sasha, so I feel for Sasha.
Hey, listen, I love Sasha. I think she's great. Me and her had a foot race in Chicago. We were running up this.
Ooh.
When you go into catering, right? So in Chicago in the United Center, there's this 100-foot ramp to walk up to get into another part of the building, right? Now I'm wearing dress shoes. I'm in my suit. I'm on my company phone.
This is when you were working for WWE?
Yes, when I was working for WWE. She looks at me, and I look at her.
What was your role at WWE?
I was a senior producer. I helped. I was one of 3 people to help launch and initiate their podcasting division.
The podcast network, right?
Yes.
Cool,
I am responsible for New Day Feel the Power, and I am responsible for After the Bell with Corey Graves. So
awesome.
those were my 2 babies that I released into the ether. Right. So she's looking at me, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like, you challenging me right now? And she was like, absolutely. And we just took off. And it was like, just imagine the Chariots of Fire theme song playing in your head. I won't say who won, but, it was a good time.
No.
Oh, yeah, it was her. And so the fun part of
she's pretty small, right? I mean, come on, you could beat her up the stairs.
I did, and she looked at me and she muddled like bad words underneath her breath, and she goes, "I will get you again later today." And I was like, "Okay, cool." But then we got so busy that we couldn't challenge her to a rematch. But next time I see her and I'm in the proper athletic wear, she'll probably whoop my ass. Just because I think the dress shoes really, really helped.
Yeah, obviously. Also, were they loafers? Because they're weighted, right? You had a penny in there. That's cheating.
I was cheating. I had a penny in my loafers, but my Saint Laurent loafers.
You had your Sunday loafers. We're going to church.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly.
No, but
Sasha losing does more for Bianca than Sasha winning. I think Sasha's 0-6 is a real good career move just because it's just an extra story. But Sasha's so good and she's so over and she's so talented that her losing to Bianca, it won't hurt her. If anything, it just elevates Bianca and it just adds to the legend of what's going to be a real stellar career.
Right. I also, in terms of just women's wrestling in WWE in general right now, I think at first the conversation was, the NXT women's division is like insane. But now you take a step and you're like, now we have Rhea and Bianca as the champions on the main roster. And you're like, I think just all the WWE women's roster right now is the WWE women, like the main roster is going to be amazing, I think, this year. I think they're going to have an incredible year for women's wrestling because when Becky comes back, it's going to be insane, I think.
Right, but it's a matter of what you... but how
Yeah.
do you plug them in now? Where do you plug them in? That's the question. That's the real question, Danny. Like, where now are you going to plug it? Because there are gaping holes in certain things, right?
Right.
So now you have to start to say, okay, do I really have faith in performers like Mandy Rhodes and Dana Brooke?
No.
I say yes because given an opportunity, you have to. But here's the deal: you have to really build your talent to let them go. But if you don't build them and you just put them in these rinky-dink, just little programs, like nothing's really gonna happen. So like the old adage is, let them just take some W's for a while,
right?
And then, like, let's build some momentum so they look like a viable threat to the champion.
Right.
And then the champion beats them. And then the next performer comes in. And the next one. And the next one. And the next one. Or you say, okay, I got to figure something out. We have this women's tag division. We're just going to bit and piece some together. Let them run their thing. And we have this entire pool of talent down in the PC. Now we got to grab them up, right? Where do you go? Let's bring up Mercedes Martinez. Let's bring up Dakota Kai.
Right.
Let's bring up Tegan Knox, even if they don't stay, because NXT now is the third brand.
Right.
Fine. You know what? Let's double Dutch. Let's go everywhere. Let's just plug them in and plug them out where you see them everywhere. And the same thing should go if a WWE superstar is needed. You plug them into the women's division in NXT. You just swap for a little while. Okay, you're going to go work Tuesdays for the next 6 weeks. And you're going to come up here and work SmackDown for the
all
next
the branding stuff needs to just go.
It's
just
confusing.
ridiculous.
It's confusing.
It's confusing. It's stupid. I never remember what wrestlers on what show, and you're like, why? Like when Baron Corbin showed up, you're like, oh, he's from SmackDown. He came over here, and you're like, what? I don't even remember what show he's on. Like, what are we doing here? I agree. Yeah, move all the talent around. I think that. I totally. I think one of the things that you're kind of bringing up is this. One of the things that WWE kind of fails to do, which is have talents earn opportunities. Like if you look at UFC, right, it's kind of understood. If you win 2 or 3 in a row, you get a title shot, right? Exactly. WWE does not track that at all, and it would be that would go to their benefit tremendously if they had like small tournaments, things where they rebuild talent after big losses. They go to the back of the line, they earn their way back up. I don't know why they. Here's my point with this, right? I don't know why they don't do that, but here's a reason I think why they don't do that. Is that like this Mania, I think, was the worst built Mania in years, I think.
Yeah, it was, but the matches really stood out. Did
it matter, though? That's what I'm saying. Is that like, does Vince know? Does Vince kind of believe?
No, you need storyline. You need storyline, bro.
I agree.
You definitely need storyline. Like, I was talking to a good buddy of mine.
Though, is what I'm saying.
WWE can get away with it because they've been in the game for almost 85 years. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
I always say that, like, WWE is, like, many times, like, frosting with no cake. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yes.
But they have the most frosting. They have so much frosting. They can make full cakes out of just frosting.
Dude,
you know?
they got frosting, they got sprinkles, they got funfetti, they got Nutella, like, you know what I mean? Like, just give me it all. It's so funny that you mentioned this. I was talking to one of my good buddies, Jeff J, on Twitter, and Jeff goes,
Jeff Jarrett?
No, Jeff J. Just
okay. J-E,
he's great.
double F, double J.
Jeff, what is it? Jeff J says? I think it's Jeff J says on Twitter. And he was saying that WWE no longer needs, or maybe I'm paraphrasing, I hope I don't get it wrong, but long story short was, WrestleMania can build itself now. You don't need any like long withstanding blood feuds anymore to sell the paper. I disagree.
Yeah.
Because you needed something like, perfect example, you needed something like Edge, Big Dog, and Daniel Bryan, and people wanted to see what Roman has been doing since SummerSlam of last year. And now it's like, okay, here's this really phenomenal run. He's doing some of the best heel work of his career. He's knocking it out the park. Who's going to beat him? Then you have this guy who almost 10 years to the day retires due to a serious neck injury. Yeah. And then he comes back and he wins the Royal Rumble. And he had this fantastic Royal Rumble in 2020. Yeah. So now what do you do? All right, well, now we got to throw in Daniel Bryan, because Daniel Bryan, again, starts to cook up again, gains this momentum. So now you want to see. And then what's not being talked about is these three dudes all could have retired due to some type of illness or some type of injury. Roman with the leukemia, Daniel with the CTEs, Edge with the neck. It could have been lights out for these guys career-wise. But the fact that we're getting them working together at such a high level is so good. And that, again, is proper storytelling, because even though it was only built for, let's say, 4 or 5 weeks, right? That was still a real interesting 4 or 5 weeks. That storyline really carried itself. Bad Bunny and Damian Priest versus Miz and Morrison. That was the greatest storytelling leading into Mania in the last 2 years. Yeah, right. It's true. Now, look, you said a lot of things. Those are all really great points. Listen, okay, shoehorning Daniel Bryan into that match, I'll never understand it. I don't understand why they didn't tell exactly the story you're saying about Roman, Edge. You have two guys. Roman is basically doing all of Edge's moveset. Now the guy's back, right? And he's the radar superstar. You had this story where it's like, I'm coming back to take you down, and then it would have been awesome, right? Simple story, simple. Well, the reason why they did that was because Roman wasn't eating a pin. Edge isn't really eating a pin, and no matter what, you shouldn't have Daniel Bryan eat the pin either. So the finish that they did protected all three of those guys. Yeah. Well, so exactly. But I just want to point one thing out before I forget to say this. The yes chants were not that over last night. Nope. And so this was my beef with the whole thing, is that they pretended Daniel Bryan was in 2014 zone. He was not. Daniel Bryan does not work without a crowd. He has to get them going. They got to get the yes chants going. And it was pretty sad. It's obligatory yes chanting if you watch it. I was watching it very closely, and I was very mad at Daniel Bryan, who is one of my guys. I love Daniel Bryan, but him being in that match, he should have known better. He should have been like, "Don't do this. I don't want to be in this match." Okay, now one thing I got worked on so hard with that match is that I was pretty sure Edge was gonna win. I had a feeling. I thought Edge was gonna win, and that they were gonna do a run Edge Roman till SummerSlam, and that would be it for Edge. Is what I was thinking. I think they're going to do that, but I don't think you're going to see anybody take that championship off Roman Reigns unless his name is The Rock. And that's exactly what I was saying, is that was another place where I was wrong, because once Roman stacked the two bodies, I was like, this guy's in the fucking zone, man. Don't even touch this guy. Nope. I was like, oh, yeah. That's it. And, I have a lot to say about Roman, but go in. I love Roman Reigns. I'm a big Roman Reigns supporter, so I can wave the flag all day for Big Oos. Okay, so this is something you don't know about, but I have this thing on the podcast where we call about making wrestlers one of my guys, right? It's a tool for it's like, yo, we don't need to get into the booking or anything. It's just like a wrestler you're feeling. He's one of my guys. I love when his music hits, everything. You know what I mean? And so it's something we take very seriously on the podcast. We congratulate each other when you make a wrestler one of you guys. So my ultimate wrestler, Goldberg is one of my guys for life. And people talk shit about, how can it not be? Right. And people talk shit about Goldberg, and I'm like, listen, I get all your points. They're all good points. But once I hear that music hit and I see Goldberg, I'm in the zone.
because he's so deeply one of my guys.
But also, too, at the same time, too, right? Like, he is just this big, jacked Jewish badass, right? So it's like,
as a Jew, I can't. He had the same last name as every kid I grew up with, but he looked like that. I mean, it didn't even make sense. It's like,
like how many Goldbergs do you know that are just that had traps up to his ears?
They look like the Goldberg from Mighty Ducks. You know what I mean? Like
which one pre-meth or post-meth?
Both, man. They look like they've done both phases, man. They've done both phases. More coke than meth, but where I'm from. But yeah, so
really, Long Island, they were doing more coke than meth.
Yeah.
It seems like it's
meth's not really a Long Island thing, you know.
I just think meth is a universal. Yes, there is. Yeah. they're definitely not like taking propane takes and going into the shed.
No. But also, no one knows how to do anything in Long Island. Like, you know, that's too DIY. You know what I'm saying? Right. Yeah, they can barely fucking roll up the dollar to snort. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Meth is a lot of work. Like, if you're really cooking meth, you really got to be invested. It's a lot of work. Yeah.
No one cooks in Long Island. No one knows how to cook.
But I can see why Goldberg's one of your guys. It makes total sense. It makes total sense.
I've been debating making Roman Reigns one of my guys for a long time, and I hated Roman Reigns so much in the vest. I was saying, like, once he takes that vest off, it's game. And then he did. He delivered. Like, he looks like a fucking $1 million. And then they made him heel, and it clicked so fast. And then he's like, oh, I'm this to do the tribal chief gimmick, which is like, shoot, you know, it's like that's his heritage. He's like, I am the guy keeping it alive. You know what I mean? And I was like, man, this is so fucking authentic.
Well, I think because he's always been this transparent cat. Right. Like, he's never really had to fake the funk in anything that he did. Essentially, Roman Reigns is just being, you know, Leaki from FCW days. You know what I mean? Even when he was just Roman Reigns and he started out and he had that, you know, dope run in the Rumble when they first debuted and they started off as like tag team champions, him and Seth Rollins, right? Like, he's always been the same guy. Now it's just a matter of like he's allowed to now tweak certain minutia into the character, and you know, he is very prideful about where he comes from and the history and the bloodline, and you know, this probably it might have to be the greatest wrestling family in the history of wrestling families.
It's gotta be up there.
I think it is.
Well,
I think it is.
Are you counting The Rock?
Yeah, of course.
Because they're cousins, right? They're not like actually blood related, but like they're all part of the family, right? Yeah. If you have The Rock, I mean, yeah, of course, you're the greatest family.
But even before that, though, you know, you had Yokozuna as well. He was a 2-time WWF champion.
Right.
You know what I mean? When your father and your uncles are probably like in the WWF days, renowned as one of the most barbaric, badass tag team champions of all time with the Wild Samoans.
Right.
You don't get better than that, you know? And then you have Fatu and Samu, and they had this classic run as the Head Shrinkers, even though I thought that stuff was a bit like sketch, because I don't think that is a good, proper representation.
No, it's a different time.
Like,
it's a different time.
It's a completely different time. But, you know, in regards to ability and movement and just overall like talent and work rate, I think that family is bar none. I think it's up there. It has to be number one. If not number one, then it's number two.
Is that number two, the Hart family?
I think two would be the Harts, and then I think three would probably be the Von Erichs. And then if we're going to go crazy, I think maybe 4 would probably be the dynasty that we're seeing now with like, you know, with the Flairs. I think it'll happen. And
David Flair, bro. David Flair.
You can't discredit him. He was a United States champion.
Absolutely.
I mean, so he did what he did. You know, he took his lashings like a man.
Absolutely.
When Hogan was whipping him in WCW.
He was the Shane of WCW.
Right, but you're also going to see, because one day Andrade and Charlotte are going to get married and they're going to have some beautiful babies, and then hopefully and maybe that kid's going to be a 4th generation superstar. You don't know what's going on. You know what I mean?
On that kid? If you had to put stock, if I could buy stock right now, I'd buy an NFT and
a non-refundable token in Ric Flair's family. Yes, absolutely. I would Flair, do the same thing.
Almost kid. Can I
right.
do that?
I would. I think we should. You know, and even from Almas's side, you know what I mean. He has a rich pedigree and he has a rich background. He's a 3rd generation himself. Yeah. You know, so like I think those are the top 3 families. You know, so for him to really come out here and drink the Kool-Aid and sell the Kool-Aid and be like, no, we are the best because we are who we are. And he did that really good promo where he comes up to the camera and he says, challenge me. That's all he really needed to
acknowledge
say.
me?
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, acknowledge me.
But it's not just, I watched that clip like 5,000 times in a row because it's not just like that it's simple and short and get out. His acting there is
so good.
First off, it's barely acting. I'm sure he feels it, right? It's the delivery's perfection, you know? He's in the fucking zone, Roman Reigns. There's just really nothing else to say. One other thing I do want to say, another wrestling family you did not acknowledge is the McMahon family. I mean, does that count Triple? Does that count Hunter? Does Hunter count in the McMahon family?
I mean, you know, when you create the narrative,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Do you really have to be in the same breath as everybody else? I mean, you created the world in which these families are thriving in. So I think you're kind of like, if we're going to talk from a biblical sense, it's like, you know, Vince McMahon created the rib and everybody else was born after that. You know what I mean? In terms of these dynamic families.
Yeah, we've talked about it on the pod before. We would rank wrestlers every year. Like we do a 9 to 5 episode, and we do a full 8-hour episode at the end of the year every year. And cool. And we rank wrestling. We have like the sheet. It's very fun and dumb. And McMahon is like not ranked because he's just God. You know, you don't rank him. But
he wrestled God. Him and Shawn Michaels wrestled God.
So here's what I'll say. So, but Big E did. Paul Cruz did win the title off of Big E in that match.
Yes.
I was kind of surprised about that actually.
I liked it. I thought it was good. You know, that's one of my best friends. So I love to see him in a position that he worked extremely hard for. You know, the man was in the greatest trio, you know, in WWE. You know, it's up there, man. When you talk about you know, factions, I think the New Day it has to ring up there. I mean, you know, 11-time WWE Tag Team Champions, longest reigning WWE Tag Team Champions in the modern era. You know, you want to see, you know, this singles run really do some stuff to separate him and differentiate him from the character just known as this guy who swivels his hips and, you know, he uses levity with his promos. And I love the balance that this man is able to do. It's like 60-40 where he will be extremely serious when he needs to be.
Right.
He knows how to read the room when it's time to be fun. And the promos the last, I don't know, maybe 4 weeks have been really telling about how much range Big E has as a performer. And to see Wale and Big E have this WrestleMania moment because Big E's a hometown kid from Tampa, it gave me goosebumps yesterday because they're two of my dear friends. You know,
Wale's your boy also, right?
Yes, he is. Yes. They're my besties, man. Dude. I love them to death. And that was a bucket list thing. Not just for them, but that's a bucket list thing for anybody that knows them. And I said it yesterday. You know, everybody likes to make a big deal and say they're crying about certain things.
Yeah.
I literally had just waterworks coming down my face because I know the moment that it took. You know, and a lot of wrestlers don't really enjoy like the destination. They get to where they're supposed to get, and they don't take enough time at that moment to celebrate what they're doing. You know, they're not celebrating like this thing. And you know, you could see it all over Wale's face and Big E's face and Apollo's face that, you know, it was something like they did the damn thing and they killed it. And I thought it was the right amount of time. I saw Twitter was saying, oh, that could have went longer.
Yeah.
No, it was perfect. Even right down to the interference from Dabba-Kato. It was perfect. It was perfect because now you have something that this man has in Apollo Crews. You know, he deserved this. He was on the Indies as Uhad Nation and he was just fantastic there, and he's even better now, and he's finally figured out a character that works for him, and he has personality, and he knows that he can talk. And you know, a lot of people scoff at the accent, but again, you know, coming from most of my friends are a lot of my friends are Nigerian that I hung out with, you know, for many years. Their parents, you know, and they put on the accent, you know, just speaking, you know, like, you know how New Yorkers put on like that extra New York accent.
That is
sometimes?
true. That's a great point. So, when I go to New York for a little bit, it's over. You know?
Yeah. you know what I mean? So, you know, he's really came into his own as a dynamic performer. And again, you just needed the right dance partner, and that was Big E. And you know what? Like, the match was so good. The feud's been good. It now carries over again to, I think, what is it? Money in the Bank is the next pay-per-view?
I think Backlash.
Maybe?
No?
Maybe
Is it
Backlash?
I saw a Backlash logo during the show, but it used to be Money in the Bank.
There's so many pay-per-views. I don't even know anymore. But I really think it has legs that it can go anywhere now. Again, the babyface.
Yeah.
Let him chase the heel. Now let the heel kind of... I always love when heels use heelish tactics to win, right? So Daba comes out, interferes. East still looks strong. Apollo looks like money. Now you can go from there. And Apollo can talk all this smack and say he's the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. Big E, I defeated you in your hometown. This is your city. You made a big to-do about this. Now it's my nation. I own Tampa now. I took it from you. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And never acknowledge that Daba Kato was responsible for the win. It goes back to like those old chicken shit heels of the 80s.
Right.
It's perfect. If that's what they do with it. Like, let's run with it now.
Right.
Like, that is interesting storytelling. That's an interesting narrative, and that's something that I want to see.
I agree. Those are all great points. I mean, you fully thought that through. I thought the match was really fun and good. And I by the way, I like the work Apollo Crews is doing. It's my only thing is just maybe with the accent thing, but honestly, it's what he's comfortable with is all that matters. But that match was awesome. And Big E, yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm just looking to see Big E in the heavyweight title picture. You know what I mean? Like, I think Big E is like a top guy. So I'm kind of just like waiting to see him. I want to see Big E Reigns. You know what I mean?
Right. But at this moment in time, what Roman is doing is too hot.
Well, that's the thing.
You can't touch
beat him now. Who could touch him?
Well, again, it's like what I said with the women's division. Right. You really have to start building up your next crop of mid-carders so that way they can become main eventers, right? And that mid-card is so good and it's so talented, right? So where are you? What are you doing? Where are you going with it now? Like, you have this talent, right? If you're going to carry Roman until next year, which I think they should. You know, let's. I love long and lengthy title runs.
So do I, man.
But you gotta give this guy viable threats where people are going to believe that this person could walk away with the possibility of defeating Roman Reigns. And if you don't do that, and this is no knock on the performer, this has everything to do with the producers in the back and how they have the book and the writers saying, hey, listen, this is what we need to do. Because if you're just going to feed them the Roman, then you're going to cross over into that Brock Lesnar Super Cena territory where you're going to undo all the things that you did to make Roman as good as he is now.
Sure, but they also have to, I agree, but the thing with Roman Reigns and what I said about Roman Reigns, even when I wasn't feeling him like full-on super Roman Reigns, you know, vest Roman Reigns, was he does feel like the guy to beat. And that is even deeper now, where you're like, there's only a couple of dudes who can believably beat him, and even then they're going to have to work to make that happen, which is like maybe a Drew could beat him at some point. It's like you can count him on one hand. Drew, Randy maybe, AJ, Seth.
Yes.
Couple guys.
Yes,
you know?
But also at the same time, too, do you want to continue to go to that well, or do you want to start building up a lot of new guys that you could? Who says in 2 years that Damian Priest can't start to challenge for a world title?
I like Damian Priest. He's just got to stop shooting arrows. I mean, you're a New Yorker, right?
It's the gimmick.
Why are you? Who shoots bow and arrows when they're from New York?
Nobody, but he's the Archer of Infamy.
I know, but first off, he used to be called Punishment Martinez, which was way cooler.
Great name.
Way cooler.
Great name. But Damian Priest is a cool name, though.
It is a cool name, but it's a waste on him. But anyway, I like Damian Priest. He's a cool moveset and stuff. I like what he's working with. Here's what I want to jump to. Cesaro, Seth Rollins. So Cesaro, obviously, Cesaro just tore the fucking house down. We know that. Do you go right into is this crazy to go into a Cesaro Roman program right now? Coming off hot, like, because Cesaro won't beat him, but he's coming off as hot as possible right now.
Hey, listen, he's beat a 4-time WWE champion, man.
Right.
You know, the man that beat Brock Lesnar not once but twice. Mm-hmm. He swung him 32 times. I mean, he did the UFO on him. It was classic Claudio Castagnoli from Ring of Honor movesets.
I loved it.
So I think you could. Will they? No, they'll probably know in WWE. They'll carry this one over too because I think there's some stuff, and I think Seth has to avenge the L. So no, I don't think so. What I would do is I would put him in a Intercontinental title program after Apollo and Big E are done doing what they're doing. And then I would love to see Big E square off against Cesaro.
Yeah,
I think that would be fun.
Just
because it's never been done, and the Intercontinental Championship is the only secondary and tertiary title that Cesaro has not held.
Yeah. That's good. I just curious. It's one of the things that WWE really fails to do is if someone gets hot, has their hot moment, they struggle to ride that heat.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I think of Ziggler when he was the sole survivor in that Survivor Series when Sting showed up, and he was so fucking over, and then it was just nothing. They just erased it the next day,
I mean that's what happens, when you if they don't believe in you,
right?
It's just on to the next. You're right then and there. You're just white noise for that moment, and then that's it.
Right.
So
this Riddle kick, the Sheamus kick to Riddle was so sick. That was crazy.
It was
he
good.
Legit just kicked him in the face.
That's what Sheamus does, though.
I mean, his Riddle tonight on Raw was just bleeding again from his lip. He busted him open so bad.
I mean, look how much that kick did for Daniel Bryan when he lost in 18 seconds.
Oh, my God.
So maybe the same thing will happen with Riddle. But again, I think, Riddle plays the stoner dude, so it's kind of like, is that a cool thing anymore? Like, you know what I mean? Like, where do you go with Matt Riddle now? He had the momentum. He was United States champion. I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know why they would take the title off of him and put it on Sheamus.
That surprised me.
I think he needed it because right now, again, your secondary title on Monday Night Raw is now on Sheamus, which no knock on Sheamus, but again, I think fans would be more vested in Matt Riddle to see where they can go with that, from backstage vignettes to title matches and so on and so forth. I think they're lacking there, and I would love to have seen Mustafa and Riddle really do it and trade the title back and forth a couple of times, because I think they sleep on how good Mustafa Ali is.
He's great. I don't know what. Yeah, I think he will eventually get a shot. I don't know. Be too late, something like that. But I was always thinking about AJ Mustafa Ali match. Like
right, but there's
like
no. But right now, AJ and Omos are tag team champions. Yeah. So where would you do that? I would rather see Mustafa a United States champion and see what he does with the championship there. Just promo wise alone, I think would be phenomenal.
I mean, my issue with WWE is that I don't care about the tag belts at all. So whenever somebody's in the tag division,
well, they made you not care about the tag belts. That's the problem.
Yeah,
like they made you not care.
Of course, they've done nothing. They've made them so irrelevant. I mean, they didn't even put the tag champs on Mania. So Ziggler and Rude didn't even get to be on the card.
They don't care about them. They don't care about them.
And they last second put the titles on New Day just because they wanted to book New Day, right?
They wanted New Day and New Day, so that way AJ and Omos could have a credible title win. Right.
I don't know, but can Omos go? Do we know anything about this guy at this point? I mean,
I thought what we saw was a really good debut.
Yeah, me too.
Just let's see where it goes from there. The old adage is you get better when you have more reps in the ring, right?
Right.
And he's under the learning tree of Uncle Allen.
Right.
Who's better than that to learn from?
Yeah, I mean,
and he's physically impressive.
Right.
He's extremely strong.
Yeah.
He's a good-looking dude.
Yeah.
He has all the tangibles that have a promising future career in WWE. So I want to see him cook. You know what I mean? I think it's perfect right now. You let him do all the big guy heater stuff, and then that carries over from there.
Yeah.
And that's it. I never want to see him off his feet. I never want to see him bump.
Right.
I love the fact that AJ did the hot tag to get to him, and then he cleans house, and then that choke slam to Kofi, and then all the big guy power moves to Woods.
Yeah.
It was a really impressive showing, And those two performers made him look like money, and in turn, it was an interesting tag team championship match for sure, because you would think now those are the bathroom break matches,
right?
The tag matches. But no, I was sitting there like this. I was like, oh man, are they going to win? Oh, they have to win. No, maybe they're not going to win. Right. Maybe AJ's going to take the pin.
Yeah.
Oh, man, what? Because WWE, when something's good, they break it up real quick.
Right.
So I was like, are they going to break this up if they do this? No. Yeah. But then, Omos and Uncle Allen won, and now I want to see what they're going to do with them. May they have a long and lengthy reign.
I know. We'll see. We'll see. I mean,
because I'm a sucker for tag team wrestling.
I love tag team wrestling. You know what I mean? I just feel like the WWE with the tag titles, they've just made them so irrelevant. I hope that this will bring it back. I mean, even as much as like they got to change those titles and just revamp it, you know? And they always like trick me. They always like, I remember when Eric Rowan and Daniel Bryan won the tag titles for a hot second, and then Daniel Bryan cut a promo being like, "Yo, we're gonna main event WrestleMania as the tag champs," and I was like, "Oh, this is a great use of Daniel Bryan. Have him get the tag team division over, you know." And then they lost the title. I think the next week they just dropped it. You're like to like some random hodgepodge team of like, I don't know. Anyway, but whatever. I mean, that's basically all of Mania. I guess before we get out of here, Emilio, I just want to like. How you feeling about this year we got ahead of us in wrestling? Like, does AEW? Like, I'm just like, man, are you an AEW mark to begin with?
Absolutely. I mean, like, I love it.
I adore AEW. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just love that it exists. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that it's just not part of WWE. Just as simple as that. I'm a dude who took WCW for granted. You know?
We all did.
Yeah. Like as a kid, I was like, oh, fuck WCW. I love WWF. You know what I mean? And now I'm like, yo, like, never again am I making that mistake.
No,
you know?
no. Now that we have, like, that's why I love watching. Like, that's why I don't take New Japan for granted. That's why I don't take GCW for granted or Impact or Ring of Honor, you know, because it's something that is different than what we have for what WWE does, you know, and there's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad with everything. Nothing's perfect, you know. Nothing is perfect.
No.
But there's a lot of really interesting stuff that I think that they do on their social channels, and that they allow their talent to have individual YouTube channels to potentially profit off of and make more money for themselves, and to get them over and to work on their gimmicks more. You know, so that's what I think is really, really cool. They're allowed to develop not only in the ring, but you can see them develop in real time on their social media platforms.
Right.
You know, and I think BTE has been a really good, you know, testing ground for a lot of this stuff, because the Dark Order, why the Dark Order is so entertaining and why everything gels so well with them in terms of, like, you know, John Silva being Johnny Hungy, is because they had a lot to do with putting in the work on BTE and really doing it. But then plus they had a mentor in Brody Lee who, to me, did not get the flowers that he deserved when he was living. You know, he literally understands gimmick. He understands character. He had comedic timing. He was very, very funny. He was very, very articulate. He knew the wrestling business very, very well. I was supposed to go to that, but I wound up calling a GCW match that night because he got me tickets. I was supposed to hang out with him and his wife.
Okay,
but yeah, he's very, very. I know. Sorry, got to take the payday, brother.
Watching me, that's fine. That's fine.
Got to take the payday, brother. You know, but I will say that is where you develop, you know, your character if you're not getting enough television time. You know, and I don't want to see dudes that are trying and women that are trying to figure it out on Dynamite. I want AEW Dark to be the testing ground. Then I want the ones that really figured it out go to AEW Dark Elevation, let them polish it, and then you get on to the TV. Then you get onto TNT. Then you get on Dynamite. Yeah. So that's where I think it should be. It should be like the two tiers, right? Once you figure it out, then you get to polish it, and then once you're polished, you go on there. Yeah,
I think that's a great call. So, Emilio, tell me the shit. Tell me what you're working on. We talked about it before we went on. I'm gonna probably have to do an intro to get you your proper plugs at the top. But you're doing all this cool stuff, man. You're like busy wrestling dude. I love it.
Well, I'm just extremely grateful that the individuals that I work with see some type of talent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I genuinely believe that nobody makes themselves. You have to have a really good support system in your corner, right?
Right.
And that's why I will always be grateful for guys like Big E, and I'll always be grateful for Brody Lee, because they really believed in me when I didn't believe in myself.
Right.
And so currently I am working with Rene Paquette. I'm working with Corey Graves. I'm working with Carmella. I am working with Rocky Romero, Machine Gun Carl Anderson, and Drew Hankinson, aka Drew Gallows. And I have
That's a shoot.
I love these. I love everybody that I work with. They believe in me, and they give me the creative freedom, and they trust me with their vision and their work, and I help them bring it to life as well. It's a beautiful, equal partnership. I just enjoy listening to them talk, and and then putting it together, and then handling like the YouTube channels and the social media stuff as well. It's a commitment, man. I love doing what I'm doing, and I'm very, very grateful that I get to work from home. To do this, and I don't really got to commute anymore, and I don't got to travel, and I get to do it here, man, and I get to do it with people that I like, love, and respect. And I think that's the big thing. So that's it. But
that's
awesome, everybody can listen to Talking Shop. That's every week on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, the whole nine.
Right. That's the Good Brothers.
That's the Good Brothers with Rocky Romero. Oral Sessions with Rene Paquette. That's every Tuesday and Thursday. Again, same podcasting platforms. Bear With Us is Corey Graves and Carmella's relationship podcast. So if you want relationship advice, or you just want to hear how this beautiful, good-looking couple, navigates their unconventional relationship due to their unconventional careers, you can listen to that every Thursday. Same thing.
I didn't even know about that podcast.
Yeah, it's great, dude. Dude, do not sleep on Bear With Us, man.
I'm going to listen to that this week.
It's BARE with us. It's really good. It's really good.
That's awesome, man.
And I'm working on another one with this restaurateur and entrepreneur by the name of Michael Chernow. It's called Born or Made. It's interesting conversations where he talks about, are you natured or nurtured within the world of business, drive, hustle, New York mentality, from anywhere from entrepreneurs to mental health coaches and wellness professionals or what. It's a really interesting conversation to have. So Michael's a real dynamic speaker as well. So that's Wrestle
awesome.
Rap. And Wrestle Rap.
Wrestle Rap. You plug yourself last? You plug yourself last?
Well, why
Look
not?
At this guy, man. Look at this guy.
and Wrestle Rap. So if you like, I don't know.
The Sasha Banks of podcasting, bro.
I am the Sasha Banks of podcasting. So if you just like professional wrestling takes that aren't so vicious and say this and that, me and my buddy, the Mighty Vin, we have a good time, and we have a great round table of guests. And I love hip hop music, and I love just TV and pop culture, and so it's indicative of just my life. I know,
I love that, because it's like I'm like I try to bring comedy and wrestling together. You know what I mean? All like my comedian friends, we love wrestling. I was like, just talk wrestling, be funny, and then I love like your podcast is kind of comes from that angle, like the rap, and I think it's interesting because there's so many comedians who love wrestling, and have this kinship with wrestlers and the business, and then the same thing with rap.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? It's interesting. It's awesome.
It's interesting bedfellows to have for sure, because they're comedy, music.
Yeah,
it's all very niche. But the boxes somehow interconnect, and they fit together like the mother box from the Snyder Cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You followed that?
I did.
I did watch the Snyder Cut. My brother made me. Yo, Emilio, I'm going to let you get out of here because it's late for you in New York, baby. But
I'm just going to go upstairs and watch The Wonder Years on Hulu.
Is that what you've been doing? Is that you've been watching The Wonder Years?
Yeah, it's so good. It reminds I want to start narrating my childhood.
Wow, does the Wonder Years hold up?
Yes,
wow,
absolutely.
That's a great call.
Now more so than ever.
How?
With everything that's going on with this fucking dumpster fire of the world.
Right. The narration really goes a long way on that show, right?
It does. It does.
And here's the main question. I know this is kind of creepy, but what was her name?
Winnie Cooper.
Winnie Cooper?
Yeah.
Do you still have
Danica McKellar?
Yeah. you still have a crush on Winnie Cooper when you watch it? Like, I mean, I know she's very young in there, but like when I was a kid, like Winnie Cooper was like, oh my god, like the dream. Her and Topanga also, you know, the two of them.
Right. So you would think of, for me, it was, you know, she was that. Oh my god, like that's like the first one that you had the crush on when you're like starting to get into adolescence,
Are you transported back to that? In the non-creepy way. You know what I mean? Like, you feel...
You know, I never really put that much onus into it. Like, thinking about it now, no, but knowing that she's aged to become, like, really, really pretty, and she's, like, this math genius, I'm all in, because it's like... You know, like, wow, like, I wish I knew her. I wish we were kids together. I wish I was a Hollywood actor back then, because I would have wifed her up, like, when we were both 18.
Yeah, man.
And we'd probably be really happy and really rich together, because I'd be like, all right, write another math book. We'll do a whole bunch of math YouTube videos. You can star in all the Hallmark Christmas movies you want. I'll do my podcasting empire. Maybe get in a Marvel Hulu television show, and we're good to go. We'll just be that couple,
That's
you
great.
know?
Because do you know Jensen Karp? He's
Yes.
married. Yeah, I've had Jensen on the pod a couple times.
Okay.
And Jensen's married to Topanga.
Yeah. So
And
he
he's
won
like-
at life.
And I'm
He
like,
won at life.
he's like, yeah, we went to school together. I never even saw Boy Meets World. I'm like, this is a waste, man. You got to let Topanga marry one of us, man. Come on.
Right, exactly. But that doesn't happen though.
No,
you know?
that's not
So-
how it goes. No. And I wish them well. I'm just kidding.
Right,
That's a friend
right.
of the show, folks.
Right,
Friend of the show,
right.
folks. Anyway, Emilio, dude, thank you so much for coming on, man. I hope we get to chat more again. I'm glad. Let's not make it another 4 years in the making.
No. I got to have you on Wrestle Rap.
I would love to
definitely
do it.
I want to get in depth, but you might have to break Kate to Faye, brother, to talk about the production value and the aspect of what you did at CalMania 3.
I absolutely. I don't know what you're talking about, but if I did, I would agree to that.
Okay, cool.
That's
Oh, you're a funny bastard, Dan Black.
man.
I like it.
All right, everybody. Emilio, thanks for coming by. And everybody, we'll have our regular episodes still coming out Wednesday night / Thursday morning. And support us on Patreon, patreon.com/comedianswrestling. Everybody keep watching wrestling. Kisses. Cheers up. See you, Emilio.
Bye, Nick Tulo.